Welcome to Season 3 of E-Commerce Fastlane, Episode 121.
Welcome to E-Commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, launch, grow, and scale a wildly successful e-commerce company. Listen to real conversations with proven practical strategies and success stories. Learn how to generate more traffic, more sales, more profit, and customer lifetime value for your Shopify store. And now, your host and e-commerce entrepreneur, Steve Hutt.
This episode is brought to you by Grin, the #1 influencer marketing software solution that's built for direct-to-consumer brands on Shopify. They're an all-in-one relationship management platform that helps you cultivate an authentic influencer network and a more valuable brand. From discovery and outreach to campaign management, Grin streamlines your workflow, removing the busy work while giving you the tools to help you grow and scale your program. From influencer recruitment, communication, product seeding, discount codes, and affiliate links, including content and rights management, sales and tracking, and influencer payments, Grin helps you do it all. Smart brands truly understand that creating an emotional connection with your consumer drives up lifetime value, because what you end up doing is building a stronger brand. You create diehard fans who come back and purchase from you again and again. Get started today with Grin and make the most of your influencer marketing program with the all-in-one platform that's designed to help you build more authentic, brand-boosting relationships. So go check them out at grin.co. Hey there, it's Steve, and welcome back to the E-Commerce Fastlane podcast. Now, if this is your first time listening, this is an e-commerce show where we have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. New episodes are available each week with your favorite podcast player through Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify, or you can also sign up online at ecommercefastlane.com and be notified when a new show is being released. My guest in today's episode is Andy Rossmeisel, who is the co-founder and CEO from Faraday. And they're a customer prediction platform that's helping Shopify brands to understand and anticipate their customers through AI. Now, Faraday has recently launched their Shopify app, and what it does is it uses machine learning to basically cluster your customers into unique personas, and then you can track your sales, through the ebbs and flows of these personas over time. It's really interesting, and I've had the opportunity actually to use the solution with quite a few brands that I manage, and it really is amazing how you can develop almost I call it a spidey sense of like how your offers, maybe site changes, emails, SMS. It's so interesting how these sorts of things on your website and A/B tests you're doing, how they can impact these personas differently. It really is fascinating stuff, and I'm excited to get Andy on the show today and just let's learn more and understanding your customers and these personas and how that can impact your decisions through marketing. So hi, Andy. Welcome to E-Commerce Fastlane.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. So I mentioned a little bit at the top of the show about, what Faraday is doing. I know you've been around a while. The app is new for Shopify, and I think it's a perfect timing, I believe, because people are trying to come up with 2021 strategies, and they're trying to market better, more personalization, more one-to-one, more truly understanding, the first party data, like my existing customers. People want to learn more about them so they can find more of them. People like them, but also they want to make sure that they're continuing offering great value and content and product selection and whatnot moving into 21. So personas is a very interesting area that I know marketers think about and they guess a lot about. They believe their target audience is. And it's different, I think, with what Faraday is doing. So maybe on a high level, if you can kind of maybe in your own words, share with us about, what sort of problem you're attempting to solve for Shopify brands.
Sure. Yeah. The short answer is that Faraday predicts consumer behavior. We make billions of predictions every day for hundreds of brands. The longer answer is that we see AI as just the newest and best way to solve problems that growing companies have faced for decades or longer. Things like knowing when and who to discount or treating each customer like an individual, maybe finding your next buyer. Prediction is just now, it's the correct way to solve all these problems at this point in history. The world's biggest brands are already doing this, right? So McDonald's bought an AI company last year for $300 million to personalize the menu for each individual customer. Apple, Walmart, Nike, they've all made similar acquisitions. And of course, Amazon has long been an AI company at heart. We believe here at Faraday that the world needs healthy competition among diverse brands to thrive, not just a handful of huge monopolies. And it's one of the reasons we love Shopify. We don't think it's fair for these huge companies to have a monopoly on AI. And the good news is you actually don't have to spend $300 million to use Faraday. The Shopify app is actually free. To come back around to your question, Steve, Faraday brings AI to Shopify merchants. We give them the opportunity to really understand who their customers are, what makes them tick, and who out there is most likely to engage with their brand.
Thanks for sharing that. So let's dig into, I guess, the building of Faraday. It's always fascinating to me about, why founders build what they build. Are you able to talk about, what you believe uniquely positions you and the founding team, I guess, on a couple points? Number one, to have the desire, and number two, to have the expertise to want to create this platform.
Yeah, we actually got our start back in 2012, 8 years ago, a little over at this point, working in a space that I don't think has made it onto Shopify yet. That's residential solar panels. Before Faraday, my co-founders and I ran a company called Brighter Planet, which had the first enterprise API for environmental impact calculation. And with Faraday, we wanted to continue to contribute to the clean energy future, just from a different angle. We wanted to help solar companies grow faster and therefore replace fossil fuel power plants faster. We got $1 million grant from the Department of Energy here in the US, and we raised some additional venture capital here in Vermont, where we're based. And our goal was just to use, enormous amounts of data along with machine learning techniques, things that we had really learned a lot about at the last company, to predict which homeowners would want to put solar on the roof. And what we found is that it turns out decisions like this are actually incredibly predictable. Then a couple of years in, we realized that we had really built something that went far beyond solar. Since then, we've made hundreds of billions of predictions for hundreds of consumer brands. And I think, there are two things I'll say that have really kept us uniquely at the front of the AI revolution. And the first is ethics. There's a right way and a wrong way to do AI. We have technical safeguards to prevent algorithmic prejudice, which maybe you've heard about in the news recently. We've always refused and always will to ever scrape customer data from the web. We flat out avoid cookies and device IDs. We've been doing this for 8 years and we always will. And, we really feel like we've led the way for ethical AI. The second thing is that we include everything, soup to nuts. So other AI software out there is all about building pipelines and models, feature engineering, cross-validation, all kinds of arcane details. But, not every company out there can have a huge team of data scientists. And seriously, not many brands actually care about all those details. We believe brands really care about the results of AI, not so much how it's made.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's funny, there's a lot of terms that come up all around these topics that you're talking about. I hear things like data activation. I hear things about, how do I get actionable insights in my data? Because people know the data is important. I mean, I've had a lot of people even on this podcast that have, pipelines or, aggregators of data, and they're, and data warehousing, and then trying to disseminate that, and visualization tools, and lots of different things out there. So there's lots of buzzwords that I've, definitely know about. So, what are some of the more, I guess, say almost like prevalent changes or roadblocks that you believe that brands are encountering if they're now transitioning from analysis of this data, and then versus the action component of actually doing something about the data?
I mean, definitely buzzwords, but definitely very important topics. This is what really matters. I like to say that if you're not putting your data to work for you, it's really like keeping money under a mattress. The way that you earn interest on data is by using it to make predictions. So yeah, a lot of brands spend a lot of money on data warehouses, and a lot of them are really curious when that ROI hits. And, the answer is when you start using it to make predictions. Actually putting things into action for me is all about starting at the end and working backwards. So you really have to confront yourself with the question. This is the one I use. If I had a crystal ball that could tell me anything about my business, what would I do differently with that information? If you can't answer that question, it seems easy, but when you really put it to people, sometimes it's quite a lot harder. We call this the intervention question. Then you should really stop in your tracks. So, give you an example. I might say, if I knew the persona of each of my customers, I would use a slightly different photo in my drip emails for each persona. All right, now we're getting somewhere. We've started at the end, and now we've boiled it all down to, this if statement. If I knew the persona of each of my customers, bingo. That's a classic AI project right there. And once you have your AI project identified, there'll definitely be other challenges: data quality, quantity, methodology, scalability, deployment. But none of those things matter if you don't have your theory of change really dialed in.
Right.
And of course, I will say, if you're using Faraday, all those other challenges do disappear.
So, we are seeing a lot of brands. I manage quite a few of them, and they are really shifting away. I'd almost call it growth at all costs kind of mindset, and more towards kind of a sustainable, kind of long-term, kind of profit-focused growth strategies. And so, how do you believe that Shopify brands can now leverage the customer data that you have available and how you stitch things together? How can that help drive more long-term profitability?
Yeah, this is a great segue. One of the big levers that would get pulled over and over again back in the day you're talking about is discounting. You discount, you drive sales, right? But along the way, as many brands know, you destroy your unit economics. So you got to stop discounting, right? Okay. Now you've got another problem. Now you lose LTV momentum. A lot of brands listening today, know that you have to get customers through their second or third purchase before they stick. And emails without offers in them, they only go so far. This is actually awesome because now we have another great if statement. If I knew how much remaining LTV each of my customers had, I discount them proportionally to that. Let's take this statement apart. LTV, lifetime value, what the customer will spend, with the brand over some time horizon. Remaining LTV, this is something we here at Faraday call opportunity, is that number minus their spend to date. Not to give people math problems here, but now you have a really powerful matrix, right? Customers whose spend to date is close to their LTV, I would say they have a low opportunity. They're maxed out. You may, if you get lucky, be able to drive additional sales if you send out those deep discount codes, but you're not like unlocking some new mother lode of spend with these groups, right? On the other hand, if you have people with high LTV and low spend, this is your biggest opportunity group. These are people you just need to get over the hump. You're trying to accelerate your revenue recognition with them, build momentum, establish brand loyalty, and so forth. So if we come back to the if statement, again, if I knew how much remaining LTV or opportunity each of my customers had, I'd discount them proportionally. Perfect. We got a good if statement. So give them meaningful discounts to the high opportunity group, no discount to the people who are maxed out, and maybe something in the middle for those who are in the middle. And your email system that you're using today is absolutely capable of this. And I really love this example because it just demonstrates how you can take an apparently complex problem, right, discounting, throw a simple, clear intervention statement at it, and really simplify the problem down to, okay, I need a basic prediction here, and I'm all set.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting actually now that I think about it, because I think that's the problem right now is that people do get stuck, first of all, not knowing what their LTV is and not knowing how to market to very specific segments of those customers and know the propensity of like, if they aren't truly maxed out financially based on LTV. You're suggesting now with Faraday that people have the opportunity to offer very unique sale opportunities or not in proportion to their particular persona. Another topic that comes up. So, we've chatted a little bit about the customer data and the profitability and these sorts of things. I think that's important. Personalization is another topic. I'd call it even an evergreen topic. And, there seems to be, almost an endless number of tools out there. Many of them have been past podcast guests on this show, and they support some sort of personalization. There's, ranging from, I guess, straightforward approaches, like email list segmentation. And, some have even more sophisticated ones like, real-time web personalization. But that being said, what advice would you give listeners today who want to scale their personalization efforts on their Shopify brand?
Well, I'll start with the word, right? The beginning of the word personalization is persona. And that's how you have to really start any personalization project. You may have this dream of, one-to-one. You think of somebody walking through the front door of a brick and mortar store, and you're going to have a truly unique experience for them. But, that doesn't scale digitally. You're going to have to start with a manageable number of personas, and you're going to have to build experiences against them. So You can create your personas in any number of different ways. Historically, bigger brands would use focus groups, surveying, market research. You would deduce a set of personas from that. Faraday has a technical solution using machine learning to find the clusters or personas within your customer base. Steve, as you and I were talking about earlier, we have a whole bunch of third-party data we're able to stitch together with the brand's first-party data to do this. Some brands feel like they already know, and they can develop those personas in a day-long strategy session. I will say on that last point, though, we do run into situations where managements will generously call them preconceived ideas for who their personas are actually quite different from reality. With personalization, you really have to be ready to let your prejudices go. On this topic, one question we get a lot, brands ask us, how many personas do we need? Again, there is a technical answer for this. We use something called the elbow method. Doesn't sound technical, but it is here at Faraday to answer the question precisely. But I'd say more important is the practical answer. How many different variations of the brand experience can your company realistically produce? If your answer today is one, that's fine. Let's wait on personalization for another day. Fine, no problem. Often the number is somewhere in the 3 to 5 range, and sometimes, we rarely see anything higher than 7. This brings the next step, is the one that most people often forget, which is that you have to actually produce the variants. That means landing pages, email copy, promotions, texts, package inserts. I think this is the fun part, but it is work and you have to do it. Otherwise, you're kind of doing personalization theater, and that's not really very worthwhile. The last hard step is actually assigning each of your existing customers and leads to one of those personas, and also assigning new customers and new leads whenever they come in. This is, easy to do with Faraday. That's why I'm here. If you're going to go it alone, at this point, you really have to figure out how to observe or get the person to declare whatever data points you need to make the assignment. That can actually be quite difficult. Finally, you have to get to the actual personalization step. So hopefully you started with an intervention statement, so you know that you're, say, deploying this into your email system or Twilio or wherever. You just need to make sure that the persona assignments that you've made are available in that system so that you can use them to choose the right creative variant for each recipient. Personalization, I go through a lot of steps here. It may feel like an overwhelming kind of thing for a brand to do, but you really can start small and work your way up. Maybe this is just your intro email series that you're personalizing. You're going to start to build some confidence and faith and personalization among your team when you see conversion rates go up. And that might be one good way for smaller brands to start.
It's interesting you mentioned this. I have a call today with a brand that I manage. I installed with their authorization the Faraday app because I've seen other brands I manage use the tool. It gives me a lot of conversation topics. This one particular brand, they're a consumer packaged company. They're in the vitamin and kind of supplement market, and they're a well-known, they're in retail, and they're doing their B2C opportunities here with their website. What's interesting that I noticed, and I just would love your feedback on this may even help my own conversation with the brand I'm going to have today. It also could help for those that are listening today. When I looked at their 3-month snapshot of all of their orders, this is inside the Faraday solution. This is the insights that I see. I took a screenshot that the household income, I thought was really interesting, that 37% of their revenue was generated by customers that make more than $154,000. And there's also the thing under the size of household was quite interesting too, where it seems their largest is 3 or more. And so it's interesting. And so I would just love maybe your high level feedback about, is this something unique, or is this one of the great things about Faraday's? Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And here it is, 37% of their revenue is coming from people that make more than $154,000.
So yeah, great question. The first thing the app gives you is knowledge. We reveal details, as you say, about each of the personas in the app, but we also give you hard data about your customer base as a whole. So age distribution, you mentioned shopping styles, income, things like that. The other thing that's nice and is another component of this part is our customer insights report, which we generate automatically for your brand, and it compares your customers to the baseline population, different subgroups of your customer base, early versus more recent customers. And that concept of comparison we found is really the most powerful way to understand what is unique about your customer base, which, teams from product to strategy, financial planning, obviously growth teams all, really thrive with this kind of information. The other thing, we were talking about personalization, and Faraday does give you that first step of personalization. We actually automatically go through the whole persona development process for you for free. So you hit a button to install, and the next thing you know, you've got those 3 to 7 clusters within your customer base identified, explained. We even name them for you, and we actually include representative photos of them based on their demographics. No two brands are going to have the same personas, right? They're computed uniquely for you. And so, the first thing that I would do with the app is, just look at those personas. It's a powerful experience for a lot of the merchants who've installed so far. The way that you then are able to make use of that information, there's any number of ways you can take personas and grow from them. But my favorite part of the app is a chart that tells you every day how your sales break down by persona. So, Steve, you mentioned that spidey sense in the intro. That's what you get for this, right? So if I see a huge spike from one specific persona on a given day, I'm going to ask myself, what did I do the day before? Maybe it was an email, maybe I changed the homepage, I rolled out a new product. Whatever I did, it worked, right? At least for one of my personas. Right. Or maybe on the flip side, maybe I did something that really annoyed one of my personas. I see a huge dip in sales with them the next day. So either way, I'm starting to develop this reflexive sense for how my actions impact the various subgroups of my customers. And this is powerful because now I know when I'm trying to drive sales for a certain group, I know what to do. And that's priceless.
Once again, it's difficult maybe on a podcast, but on this particular brand, it's interesting. You're right how they have, helped find these personas for you. And you're right. You say if you have one, maybe this is not for you. But in this particular case, they have 5, philanthropist mom, Phoebe, and comfortable grandma, Clara, and comfortable tradeswoman, Chloe, and glamorous grandpa, Gary, and emerging adult, Ellen. So it's interesting. This is the persona, the names, and pictures. That's the interesting thing about personas. Sometimes there's not a lot of hard science, but what I find interesting about Faraday is that it's actually your customers pulled from your Shopify instance, paired with your AI component, along with some demographic third-party data that's available, and stitching all of this together, and then revealing this in an admin for you. I think it's very powerful. So let's talk about the year ahead. Right now we're at the end of 2020. So BFCM is done. We're in the middle of the holiday season. Things are just kind of winding down right now. What are some of the tangible things that you believe that Shopify store owners can do today with your app? Basically, just to stay on top. You've mentioned a little bit already, but how can you stay on top of your current customer base?
Number one thing is to know your customer. I mentioned earlier about people's beliefs, and you really can't let superstition make your decisions for you. Faraday can help you, or you can go, gather data some other way. Good businesses have a soul, and that's what you give it. But they also operate in the real world. You may have thought that your brand would be a hit with college students, but maybe it ends up that 30-somethings like me are actually your core constituency. So you could choose to put your fingers in your ears and, sponsor raves for college kids, or you can embrace reality and come after me instead. That said, sometimes you have to put your finger on the scale, right? So, for example, if you've never marketed to a certain demographic segment, you're not going to have any customers from it. They're not going to show up in your personas. They're not going to get targeted by a lookalike algorithm. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So sometimes you need to deliberately do something you believe in as an experiment. But in this case, you still need data, right? And more specifically, you have to make a clear hypothesis that's falsifiable. That's what scientists do. So run your test, cross your fingers if you'd like, but be ready for it to fail. And you have to keep a loose hold on these ideas. And then, obviously, as far as the next concrete step, I would say, install our Shopify app. That's definitely the best move.
So what's the future look like for Faraday? Are you able to, talk about maybe any North Stars for 21 and beyond, like, partner alignment, any innovation? End of the day, I just would like to understand, how you're going to continue to offer value and assistance for Shopify brands.
Yeah, Steve, our mission is to bring the power of AI to all brands. It's what we've been working on for 8 years, and we will certainly continue that next year. I would say, this year our experience building the Shopify app was really inspiring. And I want to give a shout out to Eric, Zeb, Eileen, Michelle, my team who spearheaded that project. We'll definitely be adding more functionality to the app this next year. We're looking, for example, at LTV predictions, which you mentioned, Steve, possibly helping brands with predictive targeting for a new customer acquisition. Looking forward to getting to know the Shopify community better and learning from them. So if any folks have other ideas, things they want to see added to the app, I'm really very open to getting that feedback.
Yeah, and I'll make sure I put contact information and some details in the show notes. We are nearing the end of the show, though, for today, and it's been really insightful for me, more on a selfish note for myself, knowing that I have many brands that are using your solution, and and these are great conversational topics that I'm having with brands that are trying to push the envelope and persona marketing and understanding their customers, and you're not one-on-one, but persona-based marketing, I think is a really interesting topic. So I'm excited to, learn from what you've chatted about today. So that's number one. Just anything else that you'd like to, any takeaways or anything that you'd like to close off with today?
Thanks so much for having me. Also wanted to thank Addison on Shopify's partnership team for helping us get on the platform. And I would just say, hey, try the app. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it.
Perfect. So how can people learn more about Faraday, both the website and the app?
So our company's at Faraday.io. If you want to go right to the app, it's apps.shopify.com/AI. And we've got some, good background information on how we develop personas there, an academy, insights, case studies. It's all there.
Beautiful. Once again, that'll be in the show notes. We did also speak offline in the green room before recording, and I understand that you would like to offer a little extra promotion for those that are on Shopify Plus.
Absolutely, yeah. Just add the app and reach out saying you listen to the show, and we will give you a free in-depth persona report and actually a deep dive strategy session with one of our colleagues here at Faraday for anybody on a Shopify Plus account.
Beautiful. So that'll be ecommercefastlane.com/Faraday. That's Faraday. And that'll redirect to that landing page for number one, either get the app or to register for a strategy session. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much for offering that. I think it's important. It's a great time. As you know, Shopify's mission really is to make commerce better for everyone. And it's clear to me today that both you and the Faraday team really are in tight alignment, with wanting to help Shopify brands to improve efficiency, grow revenue, and the elusive kind of lifetime customer loyalty. And I think that's super important. I just wanted to thank you for taking time today for sharing your knowledge and vision, and really giving back to the ecosystem with your app. It's exciting times. I'm really, really glad that you came on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Today's episode is brought to you by Grin, the all-in-one influencer relationship management platform. Grow an authentic direct-to-consumer brand on Shopify with the #1 influencer marketing software solution for creating genuine, direct relationships with influencers. You can learn more about their incredible solution and get started today at grin.co. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you, a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, launch, grow, and scale with Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.